Yes, everybody, you know what time it is. It's your boy Jack here at the Irish Hotspur, and I'm going to be providing you guys the loan report for all of our various Spurs players out currently on loan, trying to develop their craft, trying to develop their skills to one day be in that first team, to one day try to work their way into this Tottenham Hotspur squad, or they're maybe working to try to earn a move away from the club, try to start a new path for themselves. But I think it is important to always update you guys on these players to see how they're doing, see how they're kicking on this season, because we will have them back at the end of the day, at the end of this season this summer, and we'll have to make a decision once again about their futures. But everybody, if you can for me, do smash that like button. Do get your comments in below. Dave unfortunately cannot do the loan report this time because he's having some technical difficulties. Hopefully, you can bear with me just for this one time, but we'll get straight into it. We're going to start first with Ashley Phillips, who unfortunately had to come off the back of a 1-0 defeat at home to Preston North End. And by the looks of things, it looks like kind of the Plymouth Argyle fans, are not very happy with Ian Foster. They're saying that the attacking play seems very stale. Some, very, good and kind of prolific attacking forwards for them seems to have gone a bit stale. Just everything, has gone from free flowing football, how they described it in their highlights of the YouTube comments, to now kind of very dead and just sort of, hopeless kind of attacking play. So by the looks of things, it feels like, Ashley Phillips as well as Alfie Devine, who we'll touch on in just a second, aren't really benefiting from, maybe the best manager, really just the best passage or spells of play, really, for this Plymouth Argyle team, which is unfortunate. In Plymouth's live player ratings from the match, Phillips got a 6, and the review said this. It says that while Argyle's attacking play was poor for the most part, defensively they were solid enough and limited Preston to just 4 shots on target, although another attempt from Leighton Stewart did hit the post late on. 18-year-old Phillips again showed his maturity, winning most of his challenges and being composed enough to bring the ball out of the defense at times. I think Phillips is getting a lot of good experience from this Plymouth Argyle loan. It's unfortunate that he has to probably play in games like this where, everything is kind of all over the place, a bit chaotic, right? I heard or read some YouTube comments and their highlights that the back line kind of looks like some of them have never seen each other, played each other, is kind of how some of the fans described it. So, it's not the best situation for Ashley Phillips, but he's played with a lot of maturity, as kind of the reviews said there. And I think he's going to benefit from this for the most part, get some good experience out of it. You'd like to hope that Ian Foster, though, and this Plymouth Argyle team would kind of, lean towards some more, free flowing football, because I think that's what we want to see Phillips as well as Alfie Devine playing. But he's getting that good experience, and that's all we can really hope for. And he really didn't have anything that noteworthy I can exactly bring up that was either wrong or especially good. Really, there wasn't really too much to really note or really highlight, I could say, from the highlights that I was able to gather. Moving on to Alfie Devine, though, he came on as a 61st minute substitute for Plymouth, and he was brought on as more of a attacking inspiration, really, but wasn't able to inspire his teammates enough to mount a comeback. And supposedly Foster actually hasn't been using him all that much of recent, kind of using him as well in a different position, or a position that some would say that Alfie Devine isn't as comfortable in. I think it's a much deeper position than what he's used to. And like I said earlier, some of the attacking play is limited or not as inspiring as it used to be, I guess, for some of the fans. And that would mean that probably someone like Alfie Devine is just not going to get that chance that he probably deserves. Feels like he'll have to probably take whatever chance comes his way to convince Foster to give him more playing time, but he's not getting as many minutes as Phillips is at this moment, and that is an unfortunate scenario. And you'd like to see Devine get more minutes, because he really is as equally as talented as Phillips, if not more talented. Of course, different positions, but we know that Devine really does deserve minutes and deserves experience, because one day he will be hopefully good enough to break into this first team, because he really does have a lot of hype behind him. Moving on, though, into Josh Keeley of Barnet. They played a lot of games recently. They, in their recent 2-1 home win over Eastleigh, though, he wasn't available. He was actually out with the under 21s of Ireland. I think they're competing in some sort of championship, maybe under 21 zero championship qualifiers or something like that. And he's currently out with them. But previously, the two or three previous games, he had a 1-0 loss away from home to Woking, in which I will touch on. He didn't do too great in the goal that was conceded. A 2-0 loss away from home to Bromley, where I don't really think he had much to play with the two goals that were conceded. And then a 2-0 home win, clean sheet to Rochdale, so we don't have to touch on that. And in fact, in that game versus Rochdale, I'd say he played a part in the goal that was scored. He had a long kick, sort of clearance to the Barnet striker, and the Barnet striker was able to knock it down and play it to one of his strikers, and next to him, and they led a nice swift counterattack, which eventually led to a goal. And it would not have happened if it wasn't for the very good clearance from the likes of Josh Keeley in that 2-0 home win to Rochdale. But on the two other games where they did lose, the 2-0 loss away to Bromley, I'd say he didn't really play much of a part in the two goals that were conceded. It looked like kind of the defenders really bear most of the responsibility. They gave it away right in front of their own penalty area twice, and just kind of sort of led to one-on-ones really for Josh Keeley that he really didn't stand much of a chance with. So I'm not going to really say that there's anything he could have done in that 2-0 loss away. And there wasn't really any other saves that I could see from the highlights that were really noteworthy either. In the 1-0 loss away from home, though, to Woking, say he does bear a lot of responsibility for the goal that did end up going in for Woking. There was a cross kind of deep on the right side. Maybe it took a deflection. It was hard to tell kind of from the camera angle, but ended up kind of doing this big looping sort of cross that ended up for some reason hitting kind of the top or the underside really of Josh Keeley's own bar. He really misinterpreted the flight of this cross coming in and ended up kind of bouncing around, leading to somebody for Woking inside the box, firing a shot right at him, which he saved really well. But from there, it just sort of deflected and parried away to another Woking attacker who dispatched it very convincingly. So Josh Keeley, I'd say, in that 1-0 loss away from home to Woking, definitely bears a lot of responsibility. But in the most recent fixture, he didn't at all feature. But he's getting a lot of minutes. He is the preferred keeper at this moment in time at that Barnet National League side, and he's just getting good minutes and a good experience, which is just brilliant to see. And at the moment in time, is also playing for the Ireland under-21. So the kid's just playing as many minutes as he can, and hope to see that. Yeah, he just keeps getting as much experience as quickly as possible. Let's move on, though, to Matthew Craig of Doncaster Rovers over at League Two. Unfortunately, Matthew Craig did not appear in their 2-1 win away to Swindon Town because he came off early in their previous 2-0 home win to Crewe with an injury. I think he came off early, could have been in the first half, actually, in their 2-0 home win previously to Crewe, and he wasn't available then for this 2-1 away win over Swindon Town. Apparently, the manager, Grant McCann, said that he will be available, though, for training over the coming weeks. So it's not like it's going to be much of a long-term injury for Matthew Craig, and he should be making a swift return for the upcoming fixtures. Moving on to Troy Parrott over at Excelsior. Troy Parrott's quad injury has proved to be more problematic than actually previously thought, and he missed out on Excelsior Rotterdam's 1-1 draw at home against RKC Valvik. And this was a really important game, actually, for Excelsior. And I feel like it's a game that Troy Parrott really wouldn't have wanted to miss because they're actually I think they're level with RKC Valvik at the moment on 22 points or something like that in the first division of the Eredivisie. And they're just 1 point or, I think, they're level actually in the table when it comes to the playoff race for relegation, right? They're at the very bottom of the table, Excelsior. And last time they were in the first division was in 2018-19. They've been in the Eredivisie the past two seasons, the Excelsior Rotterdam, but the last time that they did end up surviving or staying in the Eredivisie was back in 2018-19. So this is not a team, Excelsior, that you could say it's a constant feature in the first division of the Dutch leagues. And it felt like that was a really important game for them because I think the only thing that's separating them and RKC Valvik is goal difference. And Troy Parrott being their biggest contributor this season, he has 21 matches played, 14 starts, and I believe 10 goal contributions so far for them. They would like to have him back as soon as possible. So him missing that game, really, really tough for him and really tough for Excelsior Rotterdam. We'll see how they survive without the help of Troy Parrott. Moving next into, looks like Alejo Veliz is continuing to still not feature over at Sevilla. They lost 2-1 at home to Celta Vigo on Sunday, and he's been an unused substitute for a while now. He was also an unused substitute at their draw against bottom side Almeria. Apparently, Quique Sanchez Flores, the Sevilla manager, doesn't really care about using his new young loan players of the likes of Hannibal Mejbiri, the guy over from Manchester United, as well as Alejo Veliz. Alejo Veliz hasn't inspired him yet to feature enough. And it feels like it's maybe because Sevilla this season really have been struggling, right? They're towards the bottom of the table. They don't really have, a lot of opportunities to play some of these younger players because they're really at risk of relegation. They're towards the bottom end. I think they just want to survive this season, forget about this season, and just sort of cut the bleeding and stop the free fall. So Veliz, players like Mejbiri, Hannibal, they're not going to really get a lot of playing time, I think, unless they really impress the manager in training or whatever little limited minutes they do end up getting. So Veliz also coming back from injury. Maybe he's not at his sharpest. Maybe he's not at peak confidence or peak fitness. Doesn't really look like he's going to get the favor from Kike Sanchez Flores by the looks of things. So at the moment in time, this move or this loan for Alejo Veliz hasn't looked to be a brilliant one because Kike Sanchez Flores had to take over Diego Alonso, who was really failing Sevilla this season. And wouldn't say that Flores has made things much better for Sevilla, but it has been a tad better, I think, since he's taken over. And he's really just there just to help them survive, kind of just Sam Allardyce style sort of rescue job. And that means, you don't really have as much time, I think, for playing some of the younger kids. And Alejo Veliz moving next into Joe Rota, and he played 90 minutes in their 2-0 home win to Millwall, and it's a third straight clean sheet, I believe, for Leeds United as well as for Joe Rodon. Leeds are absolutely flying at this moment in time under Daniel Farka, and they have actually stolen, I feel like, a lot of the momentum for that first place finish in the championship, for that automatic promotion. And a lot of that is really thanks to Joe Rodon. I believe he's played the fourth most minutes of any player in that Leeds side. And also, they have the fewest goals conceded of any team in the championship this season. So his contribution has been undoubtable. And he's been great for them defensively. I think in possession, he's actually surprised a few, but he really has just shown to be a solid, reliable defensive player for them. And I imagine that they will probably pay anywhere between 10 to 15 million pounds for him if they do get that automatic promotion straight back to the Premier League, right? Going back to the Premier League, get the bit of cash, the bit of extra money to play with. And you would feel like Leeds, they wouldn't want to just get rid of Rodon or try to make it happen again with a different defender. If they really feel like this is the guy that can, sure them enough, and it's somebody that has been giving them, good contributions, I wouldn't see why they wouldn't take up an option to try to bring him in on a permanent deal. And so, credit to Joe Rodon for getting his career back on track. He's playing very well for this Leeds United team, and I expect him to probably get a move to this side at the end of the season if they do get that automatic promotion. And I expect them to do that because they really have stolen the momentum and are playing some very lovely football for Daniel Farka and for a very big club at Leeds United. So I think Joe Rodon makes a lot of sense. I expect him to head on over, but he did come up against his former teammate or current teammate, you could say, Japhet Tanganga in the 2-0 win, but it was a 2-0 loss for Japhet Tanganga. He played 9 minutes too, and he's been playing a lot for Millwall recently, which is great to see since he has moved there over this winter break, and he didn't play at all for Augsburg, right? So it's been great to see that he's been getting a lot of minutes for Millwall. It was more of a game of defending for Tanganga, whereas for Rodon, I would say they had the majority possession, had the majority of chances to create. So it wasn't as many opportunities for Rodon, you could say, to defend, whereas Tanganga really had a lot of work cut out for him. Leeds had 62% possession, 17 shots with 5 on target. For the first goal, Tanganga struggled to win the header against Bamford from a long ball, kind of just a moment in time where they got it launched and were trying to catch I think Millwall out, and he was struggling to deal physically with Bamford, who is very tall and is kind of used in those scenarios to knock it down. And he knocked it down successfully to a Leeds attacker. And then from there, it led to a nice swift counterattack, which was finished by Nanto. And it was a brilliant finish from outside the box with his left foot. Nothing that really Tanganga could have done better other than maybe stopping the original, basis of that counterattack if he had done better to try to battle against Patrick Bamford. In the second half, Tanganga saved actually a second goal from happening. It was a great ball in behind with a ball into the box. Tanganga stepped across to clear a tap in for the Leeds striker who was running in late. And it was definitely a moment where it looked like Millwall were keeping themselves in it from Tanganga's contribution there. So credit to him. But later on after that, I believe in the 80th minute, didn't really cover himself in a lot of glory. Leeds score a great goal from some buildup from a throw-in inside of Millwall's half. After some quick passing and some quick patterns of play, they zip a ball into Jorginho Rutter at the edge of the 18-yard area, kind of on the, I believe, the right side of Millwall's defense. And Jorginho Rutter just sort of rolls Tanganga, kind of catches him off guard. Tanganga must think that he's going to try to hold the ball up and, yeah, have his back pinned to goal, but instead he kind of uses Tanganga's momentum and body weight against him, rolls him, takes it into the box, Rutter does, and ends up squaring it to Dan James for pretty much would have been a tap in if Dan James didn't miss it initially. And I'd say Tanganga probably bears the majority of the responsibility for that second goal that Millwall did end up conceding. But he has been pretty good for them for the most part. So I've heard. It wasn't really anything that I could rave about in that game versus Leeds United. And he didn't really look too great in that second goal where they conceded. But he has been playing a lot. Leeds United as well are one of the best teams in the championship right now, easily the best team in the last few weeks or so. So it's not really something that I think we should really be too harsh on him about. I'm just reporting what has happened most recently. And also Millwall, something to note that they have only lost once in their last 5 games. So for the most part, it looks like Tanganga is doing a very good job in contributing to this Millwall team. And I'd expect them, to, if we give them a good deal or if Millwall have a bit of money lying around, maybe they could bring him in on a permanent. But I don't know, homegrown talent like that. I think he is championship level, Tanganga, but I don't really know if he'll end up going to that team on a permanent of any kind. Maybe somebody else will be impressed by him over this course of running games, and they might look to bring him in this following season. Moving into Sergio Reguilon, who we probably saw, his contribution over the weekend. Sergio Reguilon ended up getting himself sent off in the first 10 minutes. He returned back from a hamstring injury for Brentford, only to have a nightmare within the first 9 minutes or so to this Burnley team. The 27-year-old bundled over Vitinho in the Brentford box, and although it was initially missed or initially not called by the officials on the pitch, VAR did later intervene, and it was deemed a penalty and also a denial of a goal-scoring opportunity. So a red card was awarded to Reguilon as well. Brentford's next 3 games are Man United, Brighton, and Aston Villa. So it wasn't really a great moment for Reguilon. It's not exactly like he's going to be helping them out with that red card. So not really the best of moments from him. I would say it was a penalty, and I would say technically, by the letter of the law, or kind of how it works, it was a red card too. It was denial of a goal scoring opportunity. It was very clumsy from him. It looked like he knew that Vitinho was on his shoulder, but just switched off, or it's just Reguilon defending, I guess. Just not really much to try to explain. It's usually very inconsistent. And he got caught off guard and panicked, tried to catch up to Vitinho, just bundled over him and gave them a penalty. And you would say that Reguilon probably isn't covering himself in much glory there for the Brentford fans. I'd expect that someone will come in for him this summer, though. Like, he still is a good left back for the right team. If you're looking for somebody that is a terrific crosser of the ball, can get forward, has that attacking kind of drive and wants to get forward, he is the guy. I just would say he's not the best for this Spurs team. He's not the best on the ball, and he's certainly not the greatest defensively either. So Sergio Reguilon, I'd say we could probably get rid of him for around 13 to 15 million this summer, but perhaps it's being a bit generous. Let's move into Tanguy Ndombele over at Galatasaray. He did not play at all, was an unused substitute in their 4-3 win to Kasimpasa on Sunday. Funny enough, though, Carlos Vinicius ended up coming on to grab the winner as a substitute. So there's some Spurs kind of that. That's very funny, that Galatasaray team, how many players there are former Spurs. And Carlos Vinicius did make the contribution, but Tanguy Ndombele did not, was an unused substitute. Galatasaray, though, at this moment in time are 2 points clear Fenerbahce at the top of the table and are favorites at the moment to win the title. It could be potentially back-to-back domestic league trophies for Ndombele, despite very little involvement in either campaign. And perhaps we could actually find a way to keep him around next season to help Ange win a trophy this next season. Only joking. But yeah, unused substitute for Tanguy and Dembele. Jet Spence picked up a clean sheet against Juventus, and he ended up playing the whole 90 minutes as well against Juventus. The score ended up being 0-0, but it was a strong performance, which earned him a 7.16 from who scored. He had 3 tackles, 2 interceptions, 2 clearances, 1 aerial challenge, and blocked 1 shot to deny Juventus's hopes of scoring in their own backyard. And the 23-year-old's passing was also excellent. He had 92% success rate with that. Also included 3 of 4 long balls being accurate to their target. And also he ended up playing 1 key pass as well, a pass that leads directly to a shot on goal. The Italian media roundly praised Spence's performance with remarks that he covered plenty of the pitch in supporting his teammates and closing gaps, and that he used his physical power to contain Juventus star Federico Chiesa. And we know Chiesa is definitely not an easy test, and reports suggested that he nullified Federico Chiesa, the Italian winger. He made his power count in both areas, both going forward against the Juventus defense as well as defensively to try to contain Chiesa. It was mostly a game where defense was being asked to defend, though. I don't think it was a game where he had too many opportunities to help going forward. They had only 33% possession, Genoa, and Juventus had 17 shots with only 2 going on target. So they did well in trying to keep Juventus out of it. And from what I could tell from the highlights, there were some missed moments, yes, from Juventus that they could have done better with, but they did look to have marshaled that attack quite well. So a good performance from Jet Spence. He didn't really have any shaky moments from what I could tell, but also from the highlights on Paramount for me, I couldn't see that many moments that he contributed going forward either. He's not featuring that much as a starter for this Genoa side, or at least consistently he has not been a starter for them, but maybe that can change after this great result for them. I'd be surprised though if they actually brought him in on a permanent deal for around, I think, the 10 million pounds or something that it is, because he just hasn't featured consistently as a starter for them. Unless that changes, I just don't really see that happening. But someone, like I said, with Tanganga might see what he's been doing and might see what he could bring to their own team, and perhaps a different Serie A team or a championship side this summer could bring in the likes of Jet Spence. But we'll leave it there, everybody. That is your loan report. Appreciate you guys bearing with me on this one. I'm not as comfortable with it as, of course, David Harris is. If you can for me, do smash that like button. Do get your comments in, because it does take a bit of work to put together these images and also to watch the highlights, gather all the information, gather my own summaries, scripts, and everything for these. So if you can, everybody, smash that like button for me. It would really appreciate it. Feel free to grab membership as well if you do want to support the channel. But I'll leave you there, everybody. Come on, you Spurs. In the big Ange we trust. We never stop. And I'll be seeing you. Everywhere we go.